Alright, just doing a audio check. Alright, just doing a audio check. Looks like it works. So I might just do about 10 of these. So we're almost finished with this module. Alright, so step 75. You're already familiar with using the RGB function to set colors to add an alpha channel to the RGB color. Use the RGB A function instead. The RGB A function works just like the RGB function, but takes one more number between 0 and 1.0 for the alpha channel. Okay, so I think we already did cover that, but in the sleeve rule, use the RGBA function to set background color property to pure white with opacity 50%. I think that's actually the code. Okay, so actually, I got it mixed up. White is 255, 255, 255, and 000 is black. So that should work. I'm missing a space, I'm not sure. Oh, okay. RGB, I had RBG. It's a typo. That code should pass. So 176. Your sleeve is looking good. But it would look better if it was positioned more toward the right side of the marker. One way to do that is add another element before the sleeve to push it to the right. Add a new div with the class cap before the sleeve div element. Alright, so here's a sleeve div. So here's a sleeve div element. So before that is here. So we're going to create another div and add the class that we didn't create yet. So div class, and this is going to be the class. That should be what it wanted us to do. So the code passes. F77. Create a new CSS rule. Target the class cap. The new rule, set the width property to 60 pixels and the height to 25 pixels. Okay. So that's going to look something like this. So now we have the cap class. So it's going to be 60px, and the height is going to be 25 pixels. Alright, code passes. Looks like your sleeve disappeared, but don't worry, it's still there. What happened is your new captive is taking up the entire width, alright, of the marker, and is pushing the sleeve down to the next line. This is because the default display property for div elements is block. So when two block elements are next to each other, they stack like actual blocks. For example, your marker elements are all stacked on top of each other. To position two div elements on the same line, set their div properties to inline block. Okay. Oh, okay. So then they're gonna have us do it here. All right. So to create create a new rule to target both the cap and sleeve classes. All right. So it's gonna look something like this. Alright, so the code passes. So now this rule is going to apply to both of. So this rule is now going to apply to everywhere has a cap class and everywhere has a sleeve class. In the last project, you learned a little bit about borders and the border color property. All HTML elements have borders, though they're usually set to none by default. With CSS, you can control all aspects of the element's border and set the border on all sides, or just one side at a time. For a border to be visible, you need to set its width and style. So in the sleeve CSS rule, add the border left width property to 10. Okay, so let me make property border left width, and we're setting that to 10. Step 80. Borders have several styles to choose from. You can make your border a solid line. You can use a dashed or dotted line if you prefer. Solid border lines are probably the most common. In the sleeve CSS rule, add the border left style property with the value solid. The sleeve CSS rule, add the border left style. Okay, so this is a whole other property. So border left style, and we're setting this to solid. So we see that change right there. Alright, so the code passes. Your border should be visible now. If no color is set, black is used by default, so that's the border that we're creating. But to make your code more readable, it's better to set the border color explicitly. In the sleeve CSS rule, add the border left color property to black. Alright, so we're making another property. We're going to, instead of it just being black by default, we're actually going to explicitly program it to be black. And you know, we could turn it to any color. It could be blue. Now it's blue. It could be red. Now it's red. But they just want it to be black in this case. So now 82. The border left shorthand property lets you set the left border's width, style, and color at the same time. Here's the syntax. So instead of a border left width, like having a separate line for border left width or border left style or border left color, they're basically saying you can get it all done in one shot. So all this really is all these 3 lines at once. So it's kind of like once you have this border left property, then you would just put in 10 pixels, then solid, then black if that's what you want to do. In the sleeve CSS rule, replace the border left with border left style and border left properties with the border left shorthand property. The values for width and color should be the same. So right now let's just write over it. So border left. It's going to be 10 pixels. I think it's going to be a space in between, not a comma. What's the style? It's solid. And what's the color? Black. Now, all of this is not needed. So testing the code passes. So now we eliminated 3 lines of code and turned it into 1. Step 83, your marker is looking good, but to make it look more realistic, you can change the border style to double solid borders. For the border left shorthand property, change the border style from solid to double. Okay. So we're gonna see what this is gonna look like. So now it went from solid to double. Now there's 2 borders. That should be what it wanted us to do. This is 84, so I think we just have 10 left. The black property, the black color of your border looks pretty harsh against the more transparent sleeve. You can use an alpha channel to lower the opacity of the black border. For the border left shorthand property, use the RGBA function to set the color value to pure black with 75% opacity. Okay. So instead of this, we're gonna have the RGB. We're gonna use the RGBA function. So we're gonna make it black, so 0, 0, 0, and 0.75 opacity. That should be what it wanted us to do. Alright, so it worked. Awesome, your red markers are good. Now all you need to do is add the caps and sleeves to your other markers. Add a cap and sleeve to both green and blue markers. You can just copy the div elements from the red marker and paste them into the other 2 markers. Oh, okay, so I think following, okay, so it's going to have us copy this, copy this, and bring this here, and bring this here. So now we have the same effect for the other ones. Alright, the code passes. Step 86. Last thing you'll do is add a slight shadow to each marker to make them look even more realistic. The box shadow property lets you apply one or more shadows around an element. Here's a basic syntax. So box shadow, adding a simple shadow to the red marker. In the red CSS rule, so here's a red CSS rule, add the box shadow property with the values. So this line is huge right here. Try to get to one line. So creating a box shadow property. Five px, 5px. I think that should be it. Oh, I'm using commas. Hold on. I don't think I'm supposed to use commas. Yep, that's what it is. Yeah, I just have a tendency to use commas, but they're divided by spaces. So 87, you can see you added a simple red shadow, just right here. Run your marker, that's 5 pixels to the right, 5 pixels down, so it's kind of like, imagine this as a shadow to this. But if you wanted to position your shadow to the opposite side, it's kind of like if the sun's facing the other direction, your shadow would be the other side. You can do that by using negative values for offset x and offset y. Update the values for the box shadow property to set it to -5. So we're just going to put a minus sign in front of it. It's going to change the direction. And that should work. And it looks like it worked. So now it's kind of a shadow, but it's in another direction. Notice that the edges of the shadow are sharp. This is because there is an optional blue radius value for the box shadow property. Box shadow, so this is for that one. If the blue radius value isn't included, it falls to 0 and produces sharp edges. The higher the value of blue, of blur radius, I kept saying blue, blur radius, the greater the blurring effect. So this is gonna blur the shadow. So the green CSS rule, we're gonna add this property. Five px. And this other one for the blur radius. So it's kind of like a shade. So then, do you see it went from black to green? And I can make it red, I can make it any color, but I'm gonna make it green. And that should work. Alright, we're at 89. What if you want to expand the shadow out further? You can do that with the optional spread radius value. So that's it right there. Like blur radius, spread radius defaults to 0 if it's not included. Practice by adding 5 pixel shadow directly around the blue marker in the .blue rule, so that's right here. Add the box shadow property with the values. Alright, let's just do it. Zero for the blur radius, 5 pixels for the spread radius in blue for this. So essentially it makes that shadow bigger. See what happens if we say 10 pixels or 20 pixels or 30. So for now we're just instructed to do 5. Alright, that code passes. Now that you're familiar with the box shadow property, you can finalize the shadows starting with the one of the red marker. In the .red CSS rule, update the values of the box shadow property. So offset x is 0, offset y is 0. Alright, so we're changing this to 0, I think, to show the defaults. Blur radius is 20, spread radius is 0, and color is red. I think that's what it wanted us to do. Next, update the color of the red marker's box shadow property. Replace the named color with the RGBA function and use the values 83 for red, 14 for green, 14 for blue, 0.8 for... Alright, so this is a named color. It's red. So instead of red, we're going to use an RGBA function. So it's going to be 83 for red, 14 for green, and 14 for blue. And just one more, and that's going to be 0.8. And that should be what it wanted us to do. I'm sure we only have like 2 left. The shadows for your green and blue markers will have the same position, blur and spread. The only difference will be the colors. In the green and blue CSS rules, update the values for the box shadow properties, so offset x 0, offset 0. Alright, so in the green and blue, it wants to make it so that we're gonna make it 0. Okay, so this is 0, this is offset x, this is offset y, and this actually I think should be 20. And then 0. So 0, 0, px, so we're going to make this 0, 2, and we're going to leave the colors alone. And the code passes. So it's kind of like it kind of glows with the shadow right here. Alright, so 93, so I think we're just 1 away from finishing the module. For the green markers box shadow property, replace the named color with the hex color code. So if you remember, we use a £, and they want it to be 3b, 7e, and 20. Hold on, for use a green markers box shadow property, replace the named color with hex code. Alright, I did that. And CC for so I think that's it. I'm not sure. Hold on. Oh. I included a space. Yeah, that's what it is. Alright, there's a pop-up. One last tutorial. Finally, for the blue markers box shadow property, replace the named color with the HSLA function. Use value is 223 for hue, 59% for saturation. Alright, and with that, you set the color marker is complete. So then we're done. So essentially, they're trying to make this look like a colored marker. So in the box shadow property, so that's right here, they're saying replace the named color. So replace this with the HSLA function. It's going to be 223, 59%, 31%, oh, 31%, and 0.8. And I think that is it. That is it. So yeah, so after this it'll be oh, I kinda wasn't really looking at chat. Yeah, so just self-taught. And pretty much all of it will be here. So, you know. So today we finished this entire thing. We were starting at around here, and now we finished, so we're here. And yeah, I think well, that's it. I'm just gonna end it off.